Flight boss, bitch, you know, for sure. You're now listening to the Mind of an Terry's Moon, Flight boss, the Archangel Uriel, and I'm here to carry out God duties and motherfucking responsibilities. And right now I want to break down how to interpret the Bible. How to interpret the Bible, because here's the thing, here's the issue that we have going on in the world. Everybody is trying to interpret the goddamn Bible. See, that's the problem. Because we have many different people, many different perceptions, so we're going to have many different interpretations. So, me just explaining the Bible now is me giving you an interpretation. But see, I'm going to explain to you how to interpret an interpretation. See, this is what my video is about. We always get to the frequency vibration before the energies, so you can fully understand something. So I'm finna explain how to interpret what's being interpreted by many different people. This is why you got many different perceptions of the Bible. So let me break this down to you. The moment you try to interpret the Bible, see, this is what's going on. We have people like preachers and shit, and as the time go on and years go on, as we evolve, we got people adding conscious levels to the Bible. So when mankind learns something new, they apply it to the Bible. And here's the thing, your mind is what creates. So it was a mind that created the Bible. So this is what you need to know. The higher the imagination, the better your creation. So if your frequencies is very high, you're able to vibrate very high and receive messages from high places and create things from high places and bring them down here. So what does that mean? That means that you can make sense out of anything. Because if something was created using things that you are a part of, aka your body is a part of this land, you are indigenous to this land in a physical form, if whatever was wrote out and made and conformed from what you're made out of, the frequency vibration that come from it, aka the spirit and the soul that come from it, you're going to be able to resonate with it, and you're going to be able to spiritually connect with it. Like I said, spiritual truth is myth. Soul truth is resonation. Physical matter truth is time, lineage, history. Spiritual truth is mystery, myth. So look, check this out. So, you're supposed to take it literal. The moment you start trying to add to the Bible what you think is saying, is the moment that you get into lostness, and you get lost. So it plays on your spirit. So this is what happens. Your spirit end up being in frequency vibrations of non-understanding, to the point that you feel like you have to put yourself in a hell. Because this is, I'm going to break all this down, because this is what's teaching you. Now, this feel like you have to do something in repetition, something in a pattern, something over and over again. And that's a form of hell. Now, the Bible puts your spirit in that frequency vibration, period. Regardless of what kind of energy it took to put you there, aka what kind of shape or form or sound or language or information allowed you to have these type of thoughts. But you need to understand that these are somebody else's type of thoughts. And you're only supposed to add on to your own thoughts, not somebody else's thoughts. You see what I'm saying? Now, what's actually going on here is when you do that, the actual Bible itself, you would get people who jump into the concept of saying that, okay, man-made religion, but the Bible wasn't made that way. But see, that's a foolish person, because what you have to understand is the Bible teaches a person how to be religious, or that wouldn't be no concept or idea or thought in the first place. You see what I'm saying? So when you're looking at the Bible, you have to take it literal, and don't get lost in it. Get lost in it is you taking your idea about it and creating a void around it and coming up with your own perception. And this what created authority or whatever like that, or someone, the form of someone being in the position that they're in and needing to understand things the way that they understand it. You see what I'm saying? The Bible brought that frequency vibration, and by the frequency vibration of you thinking something is in that way in general. But before we get that deep into it, this is what I want to break down, how to interpret what's being interpreted. Now, you need to take the words literal. Don't take the story and try to understand the story the best way you can, because there's a lot of stories that have been told by a lot of different people. You see what I'm saying? And who says the most popular story is the most right one? Because this is the reason why we're able to even talk about it like this now. If something was popular, when we look at everything that's popular now, right? 9 times out of 10, a lot of people correlate fairy tale to it or say it's not real. Look at the most popular movies and things of that nature. Now think about the most truest shit that we see now. We correlate it to it being hidden, to it being lost. Mystery, myth, to us not finding the lineage or time of it. So when you get something in that's in lineage and time, and you got a representation for it like a book, then you have to understand this is a popularity contest, and we're dealing with celebrities, and we're dealing with, you see, think about it how you're looking at it now. See, this ain't the most truthful shit. This was just the most popular shit that was able to be passed down and passed down and passed down. Like, I could tell a person who wasn't born when Tupac was alive could still know about Tupac now, right? But a person who wasn't born when a person who wasn't born to know who Das Effects was, because they wasn't as popular as Tupac, they may not know who Das Effects is now, right? But you might got a lot of people who was born in that time that'll tell you that Das Effects was way harder than Tupac. So then when you look at who the most popular now, you got this Jesus figure and things of that nature, you have to correlate that to the same system. You see what I'm saying? Now, also, we need to understand that when we looking at, you need to take the words literal. So when you take the words literal, this is when you hear words like in, going in, then you need to take that literal, so you will have an understanding of the words that they used and how they thought, how they was thinking, and why they used it. For an example, when you hear, like, every time you could go through all the passages that pertain to spirit in the Bible. Spirit, when you do the etymology or when you go into the mind state of how they thought about it, in those times, anytime that they correlate something to spirit, they meant the breath of something. So we know everything is correlated to expansion and contraction. So then we need to feed off that, because you know your breath now is correlated to some form of expansion and contraction. So that's, anytime you hear spirit in the Bible, you don't hear the spirit. See, you hear spirit. Now, when you hear the spirit, that's correlating to a Pacific, like it's the spirit. So when the spirit is the breath, that's the breath. Period. So when we look at breath, that's the life of something. Period. So we talk about the life. So the moment we add on other shit to it, like, oh, it's talking about this, it's talking about that, that's divination, and that's getting lost into your own pleasurable meaning of it and trying to correlate it to yourself. We have to correlate to anything that, so breath is life. We know breath is a concept, it's a body. Life is a body. So when you hear something, so when you go before breath and then go to some ancient Egypt texts and things of that nature, then this is where you hear stuff like, okay, the air god. So because when you look at what you breathing in now, right? Now the Bible is a form of this body. Astrology is a form of the body we are in, as being in this body. Now let's go back to the breath. Now the breath, since we're talking about Christianity and what they mean by it, let's go before that and go to Sumerian and shit like that. This is why they have the air god. So now instead of your breath, they're talking about where you got your breath from. So they're saying the air god. So they say the air God. Now God don't have the in front of it. So when you hear God, it's pertaining to just a God. And that could be meaning plural. That doesn't necessarily mean the Pacific. So when you hear the sun, we're talking about the sun. You're not just saying, yeah, a son was out here or sons was out here. You see what I'm saying? So when you hear in the Bible God, it's just saying God. a God. It's not saying the God. So when you hear things like the air God in pretense back in Sumerian and stuff like that, what they're saying is the air is a body, a form of a light or a form of a sound, something that can be inhabited by a God. And at that time, that body can be inhabited by another God. This is why you got many different spirits inhabiting the sun. You got the sun, that's a form of a body, a light body. But you got many different gods inhabiting that body at many different times. You had many different bodies that took many different shapes and forms and evolved and took different bigger shapes and forms, right? But it was many different spirits that inhabit that body. Same way you are a spirit who's inhabiting this body. This body is going to transform, and there's going to be another spirit that inhabit this body. But your shapeless form is odorless, non-flammable gas. With your spirit, your smokeless flame is going to be big enough to inhabit a bigger body. So when this body does transform, you'll be a bigger body, but your spirit is bigger. So a lesser spirit, a lesser life form will be able to take this when it transforms and get reshaped into the physical form again. You see what I'm saying? See, the ancient Bibles is not explaining to you the frequency, the vibration realm of where the spirit and where the soul came from, because we're talking about things that walk the earth, and they're only trying to correlate things to that's already physical. So they're already lost in the physical. They're trying to explain to you how the physical was created, but they're trying to let you know how they don't know how the spirit and the soul was created. So they come up with a bunch of metaphors of the spirit and some waters. You see what I'm saying? You have to really understand. This is the big discrepancies that Jehovah's Witnesses and Christians have. Because a Jehovah's Witness is using the text in a way that a Christian would say that they're using it in their own. And the Christianity, they got Calvinism and shit that try to do the same thing. Then you start getting a whole bunch of denominations. Well, here's the specific issue. You'll have a Jehovah's Witnesses saying that, okay, with these things are entities in itself. So when we say the Spirit and the Holy God and the Holy Spirit and things of that nature, all these are separate entities, separate gods. Because there's no text in no ancient anywhere that's making you say it's a fact that there's the God. All these texts is just saying God. So a Jehovah's Witness is just trying to tell a Christian that, hey, it's just saying a God. But a Christian will be like, no, this is the God. And then they'll go too far into creating a Trinity and the hypostatic union and shit, where they start to talk about that. They start to come up with their own theologies of how, no, God in the Bible ain't a God, it's the God. And then they come up with their own things that's out of scripture on trying to explain how a God is the God and it's one God and it's the Trinity. So it's just one God. So they was the ones who kicked in pantheism, and all that shit was the ones that kicked in that everything is one and things become one. And then once you start to get into that realm, you start to understand that in that realm the beginnings come from male. So when you start to understand pantheism and their way of looking at things, you start to understand that it only go back to some male shit. And then once it go back to how anybody is correlating how anything is created, this is where you get the Father from. So when you look in the Bible, people will take conscious levels to it and say that the Bible is talking about the innards of a man and the brain. So when you say I am one with the Father, that means a spirit is becoming one with the Father. It is making a body around itself out of the male organs and fluids. So the fluids and the organs and the hell that everybody are talking about is just fluids from a man. And a spirit, a light body, a spirit that don't have no experience, can take light bodies, sound bodies, and ride these bodies as forming informations and concepts that can take shape and form in a male's life as a situation or a circumstance to have them think. And that resonation of think between the two, right, creates fluids and things of that nature. So this is where we start to get the concept of going into hell and things of that nature. This is before the male and female actually is happening. We're talking about the male and female parts of the brain and things of that nature. and making a body and how a spirit can come into the physical. Key word, in. how spirits can inhabit bodies, how we create bodies to come into. And we get lost into that light, that body of light, and then keep experiencing it and come into density to the point that we end up going into the lower chakra or the lower organs of God, which will be hell. That's the lower organs of God. And then we could be birthed out into a realm, a world. That's before we even get to the woman. You see what I'm saying? That ain't even, it's like you have both sides of a being within you. You have a male and female within you. And it's not perceived in that way. But at the same time, see, this is just adding conscious to a Bible. The Bible is not even really talking about this. Really, the Bible is really talking about the stars. But when you raise in conscious level as mankind, you will understand that, okay, the way the Bible is trying to explain the stars is explaining our body, our stars. Then once we ascended as a conscious level, we'll start to realize that anytime in the Bible they start to talk about the other constellations like Hydra or Aquarius constellation or Orion and things of that nature. This is talking about outside of us now. The stars and the brain pieces outside of us. What we're relating to, our relationships outside of us. So we will be the brain or the star or the representation of the snake that it was talking about. So we will be inside that, or we will be that what it's correlating to. But see, that's adding conscious levels to it. And this is when we start to get into reptilians and things like that, and the snake and the serpent. But look, we could get into that. But what I'm saying is, all that is forms of lostness. Now, I'm not saying that's not no form of truth. All that is form of spiritual truth. But when we start to correlate it and get lost into the physical and start tying it to physical truth and time lineage and things of that nature, this is what I'm trying to explain to you, that we get into pantheism. We start to tie our God nature to these physical fluids, these physical forms and shapes and these lights and sounds that we are. And this is what the Bible don't teach us. And this is why we have to understand how to understand the civilization that we are in now, and not understand the civilization by trying to correlate it to the past. Because if all that shit was wiped away now, I guarantee you we would come up with more of the truth than we would and we keep correlating shit to the past. So you have to pay very close attention. Just like in the Bible, when they talk about a dragon. Now, the dragon means nothing more but a being walking in wilderness, or a being that's walking somewhere else. So when you get all these metaphors of lostness or something being separate or things of that nature, people really tie their emotions and feelings and real concepts to that, like our spirits or like we're really lost beings or something like that. No, it just means a unknown creature in the wilderness, or unknown. So something that can't be seen, something that's in the dark. So when you look in the woods, a person who going into the woods is a person that act dragon-like. A person that stay to themselves and separate themselves is a person that act dragon-like. So when you talk about spiritually, we can add this on many conscious levels. We can say that you're separating yourself when you give off emotions and feelings. You give off something in the physical world. With your soul, you give off an emotion and feeling, which can go through many frequency vibrations. You can give off some of your mind space to somebody, right? You can give off some of your fluids to somebody and things of that nature. So this is why the dragon and the serpent is correlated to your spinal fluids, because your spinal fluids is what create and it grows and get hardened if it's in a womb, and this is what becomes your spinal cord and your skull. But for the most part, this is the first parts of you. So this is where the dragon and the serpent energy came from. This is where that concept came from, because when you separate your fluid, it just comes from a concept of something separating. But the first initial energetic meanings and reasonings of why they called somebody a dragon, anytime you hear dragon, it's just a person separating themselves from the pack. That's it. Then a person who separates themselves from the pack end up having a bunch of ideas and a bunch of concepts. And these ideas and concepts be seen as a person being a Satan, or a person being opposing, or a person being negative. See, but we're all talking about beings. We're not supposed to get lost into this shit and spiritually trapped in this shit. You see what I'm saying? Like, when you deeply understand, see, I'm Archangel Uriel though. So a lot of times I have to understand that everybody are in their place. So when I come kicking a bunch of shit, people in the physical forms will look at me like I don't know what I'm talking about. And the only reason that they will say I don't know what I'm talking about is because they will say something like, this cat ain't really read the Bible. Or this cat ain't really do no research. Listen, I'm Archangel Uriel. I don't have to do these things 100,000 times. I look at everything from the purest frequency nature that it is. And that's it. And everything is a new experience. I don't, to create a repetition of experience, that means that's lostness. That's not knowing. So you're creating different forms of knowing in your not knowingness. That's lost in general. Where I've already experienced that and I already know what that's about. Now we need to spiritually evolve. You see what I'm saying? And when you truly understand, and then when you truly understand the spirit, this is when you can read the Bible and understand that Jesus was being used. The body of Jesus was being used by Archangel Michael. Now, Archangel Michael is a lighter body. Archangel Michael is a spirit that was able to inhabit, is one of the firstborns, and Archangel Michael was a spirit that was able to inhabit a light and sound body and not get lost in that and just fight God's wars. So like I said, these lights and bodies can control many different lights and bodies that's within it, that's in density, that's being controlled under that light, aka more dense physical forms. So Jesus was a more dense physical form playing out the spiritual content of the Archangel Michael. So that's basically who Jesus was. The spirit in Jesus was the Archangel Michael, and Jesus was here carrying out the duties and obligations of the Archangel Michael. And Archangel Michael was one of the firstborn spirits that was one of the first bodies for the original God, the overall God in y'all religion to inhabit, to carry out its messages. And Jesus was the physical form to carry out the more dense physical form. So the more shaping form. So Jesus was basically Archangel Michael manifested into physical forms. But Archangel Michael was a spirit, and the first body that Archangel Michael took was sound and light, right? And spirits are the firstborn. And in that body, those first bodies is inhabit for the frequency God to inhabit. Because God don't have no shaping form. So that first shaping form will be Archangel Michael. And that first shaping form is light and sound in that realm. We don't see that realm in the energy realm. This is why you can't see somebody's spirit. When somebody die, you don't see no fucking light leaving their body. Because the spirit ain't no fucking light inside a body. Your spirit is related to the darkness. This is related to the light. This is why you can see it, asshole. Now as far as that world, that spirit, boom, that spirit is Archangel Michael. Now the body it took was a concept or light or shape or form and the idea that Jesus was playing out, right? Now when Jesus got that idea, it resonated with Archangel Michael. Now, or Mary. Now, yeah, Mary. Now Mary is able to resonate with Archangel Michael. Boom, Archangel Michael already had that pureness to experience. Boom, came down here and Mary Little Lamb had motherfucking Jesus Christ. The physical representation of the spirit of fucking Michael. So this is the physical source. So when you hear me say, I'm the Archangel motherfucking Uriel, right? I'm taking the shape and form of a lighter body, which is Uriel. And that body, right, in that realm, right, that's a spirit that was a couple spirits that created that body to inhabit. And then in that world, God created those motherfuckers to inhabit those motherfuckers. And those motherfuckers play as spirits. I mean, as messengers. You see what I'm saying? Now, then Christians and Jehovah's Witnesses still got to get over that. But they don't even understand that because both of them are understanding it. Both of them are understanding it from their own perception and not understanding it literally. But I could go into so many deep aspects of why y'all see the Bible the way y'all see it and why y'all need to just throw that shit away in general, so you don't get motherfucking lost into that shit. But if you wanna truly understand it, then understand terms and what's being said. When you hear God, you don't hear the God, so it's not the God. So whoever wrote it understood that. You see what I'm saying? They understood that. So when you hear the earth, it's talking about this earth. So this is why I say everything has to presuppose astrology. Because if you're not presupposing this planet or this star or whatever word you want to call it, because it's and even in your own religious back, it say the. So if you're not correlated, you must be correlated. Whatever you're talking about ain't this world, and it ain't no reason for us to be talking about it. So this is why I talk about astrology the way I talk about it. This is why this is the only way of you even understanding any fucking thing. Flight boss, bitch, goddamn air, and then you'll have a lot of people who come here and tell you that, nah, all this shit come from this, and you need to understand man's word first. They lost. Flight boss, bitch. God.